Hey guys, this is Daniel and welcome to the fifth part of the rigging tutorial in Blender. We have our character here and our rig, of course, inside. That works good so far, and today's video will be about adding physics to the hair. We have already our chain set up in our last part, but I realized that we forgot something important. While it does move when you rotate the hair, for example, it does not work when you add a keyframe. Add a keyframe here and a bit later another one, and see what happens. The chain just stays at this position. This was something that I overlooked in the last part, so I quickly want to show you how you fix that. Let's remove the keyframes again and reset the rotation. Basically, the issue is that our first rigid body constraint connects the first cube to the collider object here. The problem is that the collider object itself does not move when the hair, when the head bone moves. We need an object that is only parented to the bone itself, that is used to, as a connection to our rigid bodies. So basically what we want to do is I'll add a new object, an icosphere. This will be just a collider, so let's give it a wireframe view. Also, we don't want to render it, so let's go ahead and uncheck the camera icon over here, and then we'll just move it to our head position. Something like this should be good enough. This will also be part of our rig layer with the collider. I just select the sphere and then the head bone and parent the object to the bone, so that they just move together. And to fix the final problem here, just go ahead and change the first object from collider to our new icosphere. I guess that's what it was. Let's rename that, by the way, to head collider. Great. So now if we animate the head again, and we go ahead and check our result, maybe we should add actually a rigid body to our sphere. So another thing that I forgot to mention, here's your sphere, add rigid body to it. We need it to be passive and animated. So now it should be perfectly fine. Yes, there you go. It has animation on it and still has the physics applied to it. So now the system is actually complete. Now we can move on with copying this to our hair. So this is what you want to do. First of all, we need a kind of a guide for where we are going to place our strands. I'll add a new object, just a plane, something, and in edit mode I'll delete everything there is, and with a control left click I add a new point somewhere in the scene. Let me check X-ray so that we can actually see through the object. Now what I'm doing is, let me delete that again just to explain it quickly. The depth of the point is decided by the 3D cursor. So if we press Shift C to reset the cursor position and we add a new vertex here, we are sure that it's exactly in the middle because our cursor is also just in the middle. And I was looking at it straight from this side, so there is definitely no issue. And you can check it here on this X value. This one needs to be 0. Because this is basically the mirror plane that we want to work our first strand on. I will extrude this to the very end of the strand and then use subdivide from the tools and have 2 cuts. So you can adjust the position a little bit, but keep in mind that the physics will make these straight anyways. So even if you curve them or try to adjust them so that they really fit to the hairstyle, this might actually not be something you want to do because it might end up just straight again. So just keep it straight as it is. That might be not too bad of an idea. I'll add 2 more copies to the side because this is where our next strands are placed. and make sure that these are sort of inside of the hair strands, because if they're outside and they just have to drop, you might get, well, it's more likely that you'll end up with intersections. That's basically what it's about. Try to find a position where they are relaxed, in a relaxed state regarding physics, and where you don't run into collision issues, if that's possible. So that looks good to me. We need one more strand for the front, for this here. It should be fine this way. You see, again, I'm trying to do this sort of subtle and not following the entire shape of our hair. So this will basically be a guide for snapping operations. When we place the bones, we'll just snap them to these vortex chains. By the way, let me quickly flip that. I'll set my transformation origin to my cursor, copy that with Shift D, and then scale it along X by -1. That way, you know, it's mirrored and it's there and everything is good. So I moved it to the third layer, and now we want to get started with copying, you know, these bones to our, well, to this newly set up system here. So the problem is we can't copy it at the same time because we have a couple of objects and a couple of bones. You can't select bones and objects at the same time. So select all the objects first, move them to the side, then select in edit mode all the bones, all 3 of them, and move them exactly to the same position so that they just line up, maybe 1 unit further to the back. Now you will notice in pose mode that the relations are off. The objects are still parented to the first armature chain. You can change that by quickly selecting the objects again and parenting them with Ctrl P to our new bones, and with 3 operations that will fix the whole system again, and now we're back with a working chain that we can now place in here somewhere. Now it gets again a little bit easier when you go to edit mode with your new armature and you just snap it to, of course you need to select vertex here for the snapping mode, and you can check that icon, then it will just snap to, hopefully, to our vertex. It's hard to tell now, so I can, you know, hide the first layer maybe, and instead show the second layer where we have our armature system on it, so that we won't get confused with all the other geometry that's inside. So that one lined up pretty well. We can move on with the second point here, and third is somewhere in here, and the last one should be right here. Now when you go back to the first layer where we had our objects, by the way, let's move these to the third layer as well so that we can just look at them. They're still here, stuck at the bottom, but when you move between the frames and go just 1 frame to the front and 1 back, you'll see that they will jump here to the top. That's because the position is being updated through, you know, changing time, and they're a bit off, but we can quickly fix that, and it's a good thing that they are already kind of aligned in the rotation way. That's because of the way we set it up with the parents. But just go ahead and select the first empty and snap it to, you know, the first joint. Do the same thing with the second empty and the third. And our objects, we'll also snap them to our bones. Just go to edit mode with your armature system, snap the cursor with Shift S and cursor to selected in here, then select the object and selection to cursor, and then in object mode you can just scale it down to make it fit. Again, snap the cursor to your selection, select selection to cursor, and scale it down until it fits into the space that you have. We'll do that a third time, and then our chain will be done. So here we go. If you get, wrong results here, there can be multiple reasons for that, but usually, well, I have here misplacement of one of the joints, I noticed, but also it's very common to just have problems with the cache. So just enter edit mode with some of the objects. And did I get the, oh, I see. So I did get the order wrong this time actually. This empty apparently, is that true? Let's check it. Yeah, the one that I placed second actually belongs to the first, to the head of the chain, and the other one should be down here. So now we fixed it. Stuff like this can happen. Just try to figure out what exactly was wrong for you, and very quickly you should be able to figure it out. One thing that you want to be careful with is that the rotation of your bones is not off. All of them are still at 0, so that's fine. But for the other strands, like we'll have over here rotated ones, and you will have to adjust the roll so that they approximately continue rolling around the head. So it will be something like 45 degrees here, something close to 90 degrees here, and a bit to the front here. That way you keep the rotation and everything correct. So I think if I go ahead and do all of these in the recording, this will be a very repetitive process. I will stop the recording here, and we will continue from the point where all of these are done. So see you in a few moments. So now that I'm done with all the bones, as you can see here, I want to give you a quick look at the orientation of all these objects and bones. You'll see that for all of them the z-axis is pointing outwards, and the y-axis of course should be pointing downwards. Here is the rig as well. Let me activate X-ray so that you can kind of get a view of it. The orientation is exactly the same. So this is the setup that we have so far. Now there is one thing that I want to fix, one or two things actually. As for the collider object, this really isn't the best way to do it, honestly, because we're copying the entire mesh. Is that really necessary? So instead I want to create a simplified version of our character very quickly, just so that we don't waste, that we won't risk our stable simulation. So I'll just add a new object, move it to somewhere in the center, and I will go ahead and start modeling a simplified version of it. So I start with the cube, I use subdivide. You can use smooth here to make it smooth, scale it down a little bit, and I will use X mirror here to have my edits mirrored on the other side. And very quickly I just want to have a quick upper body shape. Doesn't take too much effort to create this. This should be more than enough. Just make sure that it captures the volume good enough, that it's not too big and not too small. So I'll do this only in the first layer because it's kind of hard to see with the armature system in our way. So this is a lot better. So you can see what I'm doing here. Just trying to capture the whole character as simple as possible. That's good enough. So that's the upper body. I will actually copy this whole thing and separate it into a new object, so that we have two of these. Actually, that's kind of unnecessary. You can just go to object mode and copy it. And in edit mode, I will uncheck X mirror, rotate it by 180 degrees. And move it a bit downwards. This will be also the lower area. We'll just reuse it here. And that's also good enough. Actually, in this case, I should have again turned this option on. Let's see. So let's try again. Very quickly capture the shape of it. Make sure that the collider does not allow the hair to go through it, but also don't waste too much space outside, because you don't want to have collisions outside of it. And this should be good enough. It's not a bad thing if you have intersections between these two colliders. It's just a problem if there's space in between and the hair might slip through between those two parts, so be careful with that. Finally, I will do something for the arms, and that will be pretty much it. Let me start with a new object for the arms. I'll just scale it down, create sort of a cylindrical shape, and I'll use the subdivide tool again, but I won't use the smooth on this one because it didn't appear to work too well. I'll smooth it though with the smooth vortex tool here to get the cylindrical shape. It's kind of a sphere, and I'll use it again. So there you go. This is the arm, very simplified. Make it a bit larger here. And then for the arm, I'll also use a copy of it. And I'll also do a quick hand, because she might be interacting with her hair using her hand, but that's, you know, very rough for now. Should we have something more detailed, we can still work on that later on, depending on how you need it. And this should be good enough for most cases. So to make this work now, we need to do a couple of things, because with rigid bodies there are a few rules that you have to keep. Things like the center of mass needs to be correct. You can calculate this automatically, but you need to set it. It's not allowed to be off. Also, it needs to be separate objects here, so that we can do the rigging easily. Let's just mirror this quickly on the other side and apply. Now I will select everything, press P, and by loose parts, so everything is an object. And let's move these objects to a separate layer, maybe to 3, because that's where all of our rigid bodies are. Since we have the chance, let's try to avoid collisions at the very beginning. We'll just move these back a little bit, and I'll quickly mirror this object again, apply it and separate by these parts, and this should be good enough. So I'm not too worried about the head actually, because we have here the sphere anyways. But if you really want, you could also add very quickly a neck. Let's do it just because we can. Looks like we had two objects here. Give a second. So we don't need this one. So here's our neck. And then we'll go ahead and parent these objects individually to the according bones, which is not too difficult. If you followed the tutorial, you should already know how to do this. So let's quickly go through it. This is also a collider, by the way. Let's have all of these shaded for now. Alright. So let's get started. I will go to the layer with the armature system. Before that, I forgot something. Select all of these new objects, and I forgot to mirror the hand as well. I'm forgetting many things here. No. Actually, I just forgot to move the object to the correct layer. So here it is. So select all of these objects and we'll set the center of mass accordingly. You do that with a very complicated shortcut. It's Control Alt Shift and C, and then origin to center of mass. That fixes all these of the center positioning, and then you want to add rigid body to all of those. Should be able to do it with all of them if I press the space bar and I add rigid body. Let's see if it worked. Yeah. Then we can select all of them, switch this to passive, right click on it and copy to selected. So all of these are now passive, and because we want to have them animated, check animated, again right click, copy to selected. So now all of these have the same settings. All of these are colliders, and you can see it works already in the simulation. Very stable, a lot better than what we had before. To connect it to our armature system, we will just select the object, then the according bone, and do the usual. So Control P, parent to bone. So now when we rotate it, it's part of it. This works. Let's move on here. So make sure to get the right object. And then on the other side. So very easy and nothing new here. And after that we can continue with a new bone system that follows our hair strands. Let's check if everything is set up correctly, and I would say that everything works good so far. So in the simulation too, everything is good. Let's move on. We don't need this object, I believe. Let's delete this. It was our guide for the position of the chains at the beginning. So to have actual, deformation on the hair mesh, we need bones, right? So I just want to reuse the bones that we already have. So in edit mode, I'll select all of these, and I'm just pressing L while hovering over them, and then I will use Shift D to copy them, and then with the right mouse button you leave them at the position where they were, and then with Shift H you hide everything except for the new bones. So now for this bones, we need to have these bones copy our rigid bodies. So I'm also activating the layer with all of our rigid bodies here, and now we have to set up a system where these bones copy the rotation of the object that's right below it. Go ahead and select the bone, and you have to do it in this Add Bone Constraint tab. Use Copy Rotation, and select the cube. And if you did it right, everything should stay the way it is. And you know, maybe you have a very slight change here, but it really should not change the rotation like 90 degrees or something. If that happens, you will get a very bad result later on. So make sure that everything works just like that. So I just saw that apparently, oh no, I was just imagining something. So yeah, as you can see, the new bones just followed our simulation here. We have 2 strands. Here, this is the one to control our hair, and the new one, the green one with the constraint, follows like the mesh here. So I want to hide in pose mode these as well, so I'm going to select all of the ones that I have here in edit mode, and in pose mode I will also press Shift H to hide all the other ones. And now let's just add a bunch of constraints here. Copy rotation, this cube, copy rotation, this cube. So there are shortcuts, I believe, but I don't have them. I don't know them right now, so if you want to have an easier time doing this, maybe research it. I think it's worth it. I'm just a bit lazy right now. So yeah, basically this is what you continue doing. I think I won't be doing this now because it's just very repetitive, and I think you got the main point of what I'm trying to do here. So anyways, continue with this step, and I will continue this project in the next part where I finish like setting up all the constraints, and then I think the only thing that's left to do is to paint the weights, and that will be a very fun step, and we'll see the results on our character as well. So look forward to that. I hope that you learned something in this video as always. Hopefully you'll be there in the next one as well. Have a good day.